My name is Tammy Moore, and the moment I saw the murder in Angelo's mind, I had 3 seconds to decide: let the Mafia boss die, or save him and condemn myself to a fate worse than death. I chose damnation. 3 weeks later, I'd be standing on that same rooftop wearing a platinum ring that felt more like a shackle, married to Dante Valenti, a man whose emptiness terrified me more than any threat he could make. A man I was starting to understand. A man I was dangerously close to loving. But first, I had to spill the drinks. My talent isn't parlor tricks or fortune-telling. It's a curse that shows me the truth everyone works so hard to hide. When I look at people, really look, I see their psychic profile. Anxiety blooms like dark smoke curling from their shoulders. Desire pulses red and hot beneath their skin. Lies shimmer like oil slicks on water, rainbow iridescent and impossible to miss. And intent? Intent burns cold and bright, a laser beam pointing toward whatever they're planning to do next. For 3 years, I'd kept my head down at Il Covo, the exclusive Italian restaurant where Boston's shadows gathered to feast on veal and violence. I learned the survival rules quickly: never react to what you see, never let them know you know, be invisible and untouchable. That strategy died the night Dante Valenti held court in the private room, and I saw his most trusted man planning to put a bullet in his brain. The tray of crystal glasses felt impossibly heavy in my hands as I approached their table. My heart hammered against my ribs hard enough to bruise. Every instinct screamed to run, to call the police, to do anything except walk directly into a murder in progress. But running meant Dante died. And somehow, impossibly, inexplicably, I couldn't let that happen. Not when his psychic profile showed me something I'd never seen in 3 years of reading Boston's criminal elite: absolute emptiness. Not evil. Not the red-black swirl of cruelty I'd seen in so many others. Just a void where emotion should exist, carved out by too much death, too much betrayal, too much survival at any cost. He'd suffered. Endlessly. And Angelo, smiling, loyal Angelo with his expensive suit and calculated charm, was about to end him. I took 3 steps closer. Angelo's intention crystallized in my vision like ice forming over glass, gun tucked in waistband, clean shot to the base of Dante's skull the moment the door closed, frame it as a rival family's hit, collect payment from the Rossini family. 2 steps. My hands slipped. The crash of 6 heavy crystal glasses hitting Angelo's knee was deafening in the private room's intimate space. Glass shattered. Ice scattered. Scotch splashed across Angelo's expensive pants and the white tablecloth like blood spatter. Dante moved first, combat instincts faster than conscious thought. He was out of his chair and behind the marble bar before the first shard hit the floor, his hand already inside his jacket where I knew a weapon waited. Angelo lurched forward, pain and surprise breaking his careful control. His hand went instinctively to his waistband, toward the gun, but Dante's guards were faster. 2 men in black suits materialized from corners I hadn't consciously registered, weapons drawn, positioning themselves between their boss and the threat. "Don't move," the larger guard commanded, his gun inches from Angelo's temple. His voice was flat, professional, the tone of someone who'd killed before and would kill again without hesitation. Angelo froze, his psychic profile exploding into panic, jagged yellow streaks like lightning through storm clouds. He knew he was caught. Didn't know how, but caught nonetheless. "I'm sorry," I gasped, dropping to my knees like I was gathering broken glass with trembling hands. "I'm so sorry," I slipped, "I didn't mean," the tray was heavier than I thought. "Quiet." Dante's voice cut through my babbling like a blade. He emerged from behind the bar, dark eyes fixed not on Angelo, but on me. Really looking at me, maybe for the first time in 3 years of serving him. "Everyone out. Except you." He pointed at me. "And you." His fingers swung to Angelo. "Kenneth, search him." The head guard, Kenneth, apparently, moved with efficient brutality. He found the gun in seconds. A custom Beretta, suppressor already attached, chambered and ready. Angelo's face went white. The yellow panic in his psychic profile turned red with fear. Boss, I can explain. You brought a weapon to a private dinner. In my presence. After I specifically mandated no arms in this room. Dante's voice was soft, conversational, and absolutely terrifying. Like a teacher disappointed by a failing student, if that teacher had the power to end lives with a gesture. Explain that. I couldn't look away from Dante's psychic profile. The emptiness was filling, with cold, calculated fury and something darker beneath it. Betrayal. This hurt him, even through that void. Angelo had been trusted, and trust violated cut deeper than any blade. The girl, Angelo said desperately, his eyes darting to me like I was a lifeline he could grab. She knew. Somehow she knew what I was planning. She made me. Made you bring a loaded weapon to kill me? Dante stepped closer to Angelo, his movements predator smooth, each footfall deliberate. Interesting theory. How exactly did a waitress make you plan treason? Angelo's intention shifted in my vision, desperation replacing planning. He was going to try something suicidal. His muscles tensed, preparing to grab for Kenneth's weapon, knowing it was suicide but preferring a quick death to whatever Dante would do. He's going to move. The words left my mouth before I could stop them, before I could remember that invisible people don't know things they shouldn't know. Right now, he's going to try to grab the gun. Angelo lunged. Kenneth's weapon fired, a suppressed cough, professional and final. Angelo crumpled, blood spreading across expensive Italian marble in a dark pool that reflected the chandelier's light. Silence crashed over the room like a physical weight. Every eye turned to me. I was still on my knees, surrounded by broken crystal and spilled scotch, my hands shaking so violently I couldn't control them. The metallic smell of blood mixed with the citrus notes of expensive whiskey. Dante crouched in front of me, his dark eyes studying my face with an intensity that made me feel stripped bare, every secret exposed. How did you know what he was going to do? I saw it. My voice was barely a whisper, but in the silent room it sounded like a shout. I see things. People's intentions. Their emotions. I've always been able to. Always. He tested the word. Define always. Since I was 12. Since my father, I stopped. He didn't need my tragic backstory. Since it started. I can't control it. Every person I look at, I see what they're feeling, what they're planning. It's exhausting. Overwhelming. That's why I work night shifts in dim rooms serving criminals who don't look at the waitstaff. I can manage it here. Show me. He offered his hand. Read me. Tell me what you see. I took his hand, and his psychic profile crashed over me like a wave. The emptiness was there, yes, vast and echoing. But underneath, buried so deep most people would never sense it, was pain. Decades of it, layered like sedimentary rock. Betrayals that had carved away everything soft until only the weapon remained. Trust murdered so many times it couldn't regenerate. And beneath even that, the faintest ember of something that might once have been hope, so small I almost missed it. You're alone, I whispered, the words pulled from me by the depth of his isolation. Even surrounded by people, you're completely alone. You can't trust anyone because everyone wants something, your power, your position, your death. Angelo's been planning this for 6 months. He sold information to the Rossini family, thought killing you would earn him a lieutenant's position at their table. He needed the money for his daughter's medical bills, but that doesn't excuse what he was going to do. Dante's hand tightened on mine, his grip just short of painful. What else do you see? I shouldn't tell him. Shouldn't expose the deepest truth. But his eyes held mine, and I couldn't lie to someone whose emptiness called to something broken in me. You're tired. Not physically. Soul tired. You want it to end, but you can't stop because stopping means death, and you've survived too long to give up now. You think if you're killed, at least the exhaustion ends. But you're also afraid, not of death itself, but of dying alone. Unmourned. Forgotten. Like you never mattered to anyone. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Recognition. Like I'd named something he'd never articulated even to himself. He released my hand and stood, his movements controlled despite what I'd just revealed. Kenneth, dispose of the body. Make it clear Angelo died for treason. I want the message received, betrayal ends only one way. Kenneth nodded, already signaling for the cleanup crew I knew existed for exactly this purpose. Dante looked down at me, still kneeling in broken glass and blood. You. Tammy, correct? He knew my name. In 3 years, I'd never heard him say it. Yes. Come with me. Hit that like button if you'd save a dangerous man's life knowing it would trap you in his world, because what Dante does with Tammy in the next 60 seconds will change both their lives forever. Detained was too soft a word for being escorted by armed guards through Il Covo's industrial kitchen, into a private elevator that required both a keycard and biometric scan, and up 16 floors to a penthouse I didn't know existed above the restaurant. Dante didn't speak during the ascent. His psychic profile remained carefully neutral. He was thinking, calculating, deciding what to do with me. With Tammy Moore, the waitress who could see too much. The elevator doors opened onto sleek modernity. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston's skyline. Dark marble and polished steel everywhere. Furniture that looked designed by architects, not decorators. It looked like a showroom, not a home, beautiful and completely sterile. The only personal touch was a single photograph on the mantel, a young boy with Dante's intense eyes standing next to a woman whose smile held warmth Dante had never learned to fake. Your mother, I said, the words automatic. Her psychic profile, even frozen in silver frame decades later, radiated love. Perceptive. Dante moved to a bar cart, poured amber liquid into 2 crystal glasses. The scotch was probably older than me and worth more than my monthly rent. She died when I was 12. Car bomb meant for my father. Wrong target, right family. He died 6 months later, the doctors said heart failure. I knew better. He'd lost the will to be careful. He handed me a glass. I didn't drink it. Couldn't. My hands were still shaking too hard to trust myself not to spill it. You're not a prisoner, Dante said, reading my fear with the same accuracy I read others. But you're not free to leave either. Let's call you a necessary complication. What do you want from me? Truth. He settled into a leather chair, gesturing for me to sit on the sofa across from him. The furniture arrangement felt deliberately formal, interview distance, not intimate proximity. In my world, lies kill faster than bullets. Angelo proved that tonight. He smiled, pledged loyalty, broke bread at my table for 6 months while planning to put a bullet in my skull. 6 months I trusted him with my life, my operations, my vulnerabilities. His jaw tightened, the first crack in his controlled facade. You saw through him in seconds. Saw what I couldn't. It's not that simple. Show me how it works. Demonstrate. He gestured toward Kenneth, who stood by the elevator like a stone statue. Read him. I hesitated, then focused on Kenneth's psychic profile. Loyalty burned bright, genuine steel blue commitment that would take a bullet without question. But underneath, worry churned like a stomach ulcer, constant and painful. He's loyal. Genuinely. He'd die for you without hesitation. But he's worried, his daughter's sick. Medical bills are crushing him. He's afraid to ask for help because he thinks it makes him weak in your eyes, thinks you'll see him as a liability instead of an asset. Dante's eyes narrowed. Kenneth? The guard stiffened, his stone statue composure cracking slightly. Boss, I didn't mean to. The medical expenses are handled. I haven't let it affect. Your daughter's illness is covered as of tomorrow morning. Full medical care, specialists, whatever she needs. You should have told me. Dante's voice held no anger, just flat certainty. He turned back to me. Continue. I can't control it. The ability is always on, always showing me things I don't want to see. Every person I look at is an open book of emotions, intentions, fears. It's like standing in a room where everyone's screaming their secrets directly at me. That's why I work at Il Covo, dim lighting, private rooms, limited exposure to large crowds. I can manage it here. Out in the world. I shook my head. Shopping malls, subway cars, anywhere with crowds, it's overwhelming. Too many psychic profiles, too much emotional noise. You've been seeing my guests' secrets for 3 years. Yes. Why didn't you use that information? Blackmail, extortion, selling secrets to the highest bidder? You could have made a fortune from what you've seen in this restaurant. Because I'm not suicidal. I met his eyes directly. Your world kills people for breathing wrong. Using this ability for profit would have painted a target on my back within days. Someone would have figured out I knew too much, and I'd end up like Angelo, bleeding out on expensive marble. Respect flickered through his psychic profile, grudging but genuine. Smart. Self-preservation instinct. But that survival instinct failed tonight. You could have let Angelo kill me, walked away. Clean, pretended you'd seen nothing. Instead, you saved me, knowing it would expose your ability. Knowing I'd want to understand it. Knowing you'd end up exactly where you are now, in my penthouse, unable to leave. I know. Why? The question was soft but intense. Why save me? The question hung between us. I didn't have a rational answer. Instinct? Compassion for the emptiness I'd seen in him? Some inexplicable pull toward someone as isolated as I was? I don't know, I admitted. Maybe because your emptiness recognized my loneliness. I've spent 3 years being invisible, seeing everyone's secrets while sharing none of my own. You've spent decades surrounded by people who want to use you or kill you. We're both alone in rooms full of people. Maybe that's why I couldn't let Angelo kill you, because there's too few of us who understand that kind of isolation. Dante stood abruptly, moving to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city lights made him look carved from shadow and glass, beautiful and dangerous. Every man around me is a threat waiting for the right moment. Brothers, cousins, soldiers I've known since childhood, any one of them could be planning what Angelo planned. In my position, paranoia isn't a flaw. It's survival. So you'll kill everyone you can't trust? That's everyone. No. He turned, and the intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. You're my solution. You see truth when everyone else sees masks. You're my protection against the lies that will eventually kill me. Cold realization washed over me. You want to use me as a human lie detector. I want to keep you close. Very close. He crossed to a wall safe hidden behind abstract art, his thumb on a biometric scanner. The safe opened with a pneumatic hiss. He extracted a small velvet box. My enemies are circling, Tammy. The Rossini family, the one Angelo is working for, they're probing my defenses, looking for weakness. Federal investigations are getting too close to operations I'd prefer stayed in shadows. Angelo's death buys me time, but they'll try again. Different method, different traitor. Unless I have you reading everyone who comes near me. I'm not a weapon. You are exactly that. His voice was flat, certain. And weapons in my world don't exist as free agents. They're owned, protected, controlled. Come with me. He led me through the penthouse to a private elevator, a smaller one, more intimate. We rode up in silence, and when the doors opened, I gasped. A rooftop garden. Unexpected beauty in this fortress of steel and stone. Trees strung with tiny white lights that looked like captured stars. Stone pathways winding between planters. Wrought iron benches positioned for views of the city. And beyond it all, Boston spread below us, a million tiny deceptive lights promising things they couldn't deliver. The November wind cut through my thin work uniform. Dante removed his suit jacket without a word, draping it over my shoulders. The gesture felt practiced, automatic, but his psychic profile showed calculation beneath it. He was orchestrating this moment, directing it like a film scene. Beautiful, isn't it? He moved to the rooftop's edge, the city lights reflecting in his dark eyes. I bought this building 5 years ago. The restaurant below, the offices, the penthouses, all mine. Every brick, every beam, every window. I built something from nothing, maintained it through blood and strategy. And I'm completely alone in it. His emptiness filled my senses, so vast I could drown in it. For the first time, I understood what drove men like him. Not greed or violence for its own sake, but isolation so profound it became armor. If you trust no one can betray you. If you love nothing, nothing can be used against you. You want me to feel sorry for you, I said. I want you to understand your value. He turned, the wind whipping his dark hair. Every person I trust becomes a vulnerability. Every relationship is transactional. I give them something, they give me loyalty until someone offers them more. Every smile hides calculation. Every conversation is negotiation. But you can't lie to me effectively. You see too much. That makes you the only person in my world I can actually trust to tell me truth. He moved closer, and I saw his intention crystallize in his psychic profile. He was going to propose. Not from love or even attraction, but from necessity. From the desperate need to secure the one asset that could keep him alive. You will marry me, Dante said, his voice low and absolute. Not for affection. For survival. My survival is your survival now. That's insane. My wife is untouchable in my world. Protected by every code, every tradition that's older than law enforcement. She becomes my greatest asset, my most valuable possession. No one touches her without declaring war on my entire organization. He pulled out the velvet box, opening it to reveal a platinum ring, heavy, expensive, more shackle than promise. The stone caught the security lights, throwing rainbow refractions. You will marry me, and you will use your ability to keep me alive. In exchange, you receive protection, wealth, and purpose. I'm not a thing you can own. Everyone is owned by something, Tammy. My name in his mouth sounded like possession. Debt, fear, obligation, love. You're owned by your ability. It's controlled your entire life, forced you into shadows, made you invisible. I'm offering you the opposite. Be seen. Be powerful. Be essential. His hand held out the ring. You'll marry me not because I'm asking, but because the alternative is worse. Return to waiting tables, invisible and alone, eventually making a mistake that gets you killed when you see something you shouldn't. Or take the ring, take the protection, and become irreplaceable. I looked at the ring glinting under security lights. At Dante, whose emptiness called to something broken in me. At the city below, where I'd spent 3 years hiding from my own gift. He was right about one thing, I couldn't go back to invisibility. Not after tonight. This isn't love, I said. Love is a weakness that gets people killed. His dark eyes held mine, unblinking. This is partnership. Strategy. Mutual survival. You keep me alive by reading everyone around me. I keep you safe by making you untouchable. It's mathematics, not romance. What about what I want? Tell me what you see in me right now. Your ability, use it. Tell me the truth. I looked deeper into his psychic profile, past the emptiness and calculation, and found something unexpected buried beneath, fear. Not of death, he'd made peace with that years ago. He was afraid of continued existence in isolation. Afraid of dying alone, unmourned, forgotten. Afraid that he'd survive another 20 years only to realize he'd never actually lived. This wasn't about ownership. This was about finding someone who could exist beside him without trying to destroy him. Someone who saw his truth and didn't flinch. "You're lonely," I whispered. "And you think I'm the only person who can exist in your world without being corrupted by it. You think maybe, eventually, this arrangement might become something real. You're hoping for that, even though hope terrifies you. Am I wrong?" I took the ring. The platinum was cold, heavy, unnervingly perfect in its craftsmanship. "This is an exchange of power, not vows." "Yes." "The love story hasn't started." "No." His fingers closed around mine, around the ring, his skin warm against my cold hands. "But the cage that will force it to bloom has just locked shut." I slipped the ring onto my finger, and Dante Valenti smiled, a real smile, small and unexpected, that made him look almost human instead of weapon-shaped. "Welcome to the family, Mrs. Valenti," he said, and something in my chest tightened at hearing my new name. "Tammy Valenti. It suits you." The wedding happened 72 hours later in Dante's private study, witnessed by 3 stone-faced lawyers and Kenneth. No dress, no ceremony, just signatures on documents and a judge who didn't ask questions and wouldn't remember our faces. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Valenti," the judge said, closing his folder with a crisp sound. "May you have a long and prosperous marriage." Prosperous. Not happy. Even he knew better than to promise happiness in Dante Valenti's world. That night, Dante moved me into the penthouse. My apartment's contents, a decade of careful invisibility reduced to possessions, fit in 4 boxes. He installed me in the guest suite, a space larger than my entire former apartment, with windows overlooking the city and a bathroom that belonged in architecture magazines. "We'll maintain separate rooms," he said, leaning against the doorframe of my new bedroom, his posture deliberately casual. "Privacy matters. This marriage is professional, not personal." His psychic profile said something different. He was drawn to me, curious, intrigued by the ability that exposed everyone except him. Because his emptiness didn't broadcast intentions the way others' emotions did, I couldn't predict his actions the way I could with normal people. Around me, he could almost relax, knowing I wasn't calculating how to use him. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now, you learn. Tomorrow, my world meets my new wife. And you start earning your keep." Learning Dante's world was like studying a foreign language while someone held a gun to your head, intense, terrifying, and absolutely necessary for survival. The Valenti organization controlled shipping on the East Coast. Dante owned the legitimate business, Valenti International Shipping, a multi-million-dollar company with offices, employees, quarterly reports. But underneath that clean face ran shadow operations, goods that bypassed customs, containers that disappeared from manifests, money that flowed through complex channels leaving no forensic traces. "Everything is balanced," Dante explained during our first lesson. He spread papers across his desk, shipping manifests, business contracts, photographs of men I didn't recognize. "Legitimate revenue covers illegal profits. Every operation has a clean face and a shadow twin. You need to understand both to be useful to me." Useful. The word still rankled, like a grain of sand in my shoe. "You're my wife. People will assume you're decoration, a pretty distraction I married on impulse. Let them assume. Your value is in seeing what I can't, the lies, the betrayals, the intentions they hide behind loyal smiles." He tapped a photograph. "Vincent Russo. My shipping manager. I need to meet with him tomorrow to discuss expanding operations to Baltimore. You'll read him during the meeting. Tell me what you see." I can't read photographs. Only living people. Their psychic profiles only appear when they're physically present. "Then we'll meet him tomorrow. Along with my accountant, my lawyers, my captains. You'll read all of them. Tell me who's loyal, who's compromised, who's planning to betray me before they act. The next 3 weeks became brutal education. Every day, Dante introduced me to another piece of his empire. Every meeting, I sat beside him as the dutiful wife, smiling and silent while I read psychic profiles and catalog threats. His accountant, Gregory Walsh, was skimming, not much, just enough to fund a gambling problem he thought Dante didn't notice. Red streaks of shame and yellow pulses of fear every time Dante mentioned the quarterly reports. One of his captains, Ricardo Falco, was sleeping with another captain's wife, creating tension that would eventually explode into violence. Orange desire tangled with black guilt, a toxic combination. His lawyer, Thomas Brennan, was clean but terrified. He'd seen too much, knew too many secrets, and feared what would happen if he ever slipped. His psychic profile was constant gray anxiety, like storm clouds that never broke. I reported everything to Dante. He listened without interruption, processed the information with the calculation of a chess grandmaster, then acted. The accountant's books were audited, his theft discovered, his employment terminated with a severance package that bought his silence. The captains were separated, given territories that kept them geographically apart. The lawyer received a bonus and a quiet reminder that loyalty was rewarded, betrayal was not. "You're restructuring your entire organization around my readings," I said one night after a particularly exhausting day of reading 15 different psychic profiles. "I'm eliminating vulnerabilities before they become crises." Dante poured wine, something Italian and probably expensive. He offered me a glass, his fingers brushing mine in the exchange. "Angelo's betrayal taught me that loyalty assumed is loyalty betrayed. You helped me verify the difference between genuine commitment and performed compliance. I'm not infallible. Intentions can change. People are complex, they can be loyal one day and compromise the next. Then you'll watch them continuously." He settled beside me on the sofa, closer than necessary, close enough that I could feel warmth radiating from him. The professional distance he'd insisted on maintaining was eroding incrementally, inch by inch. "That's why you're here. Permanent surveillance on everyone who matters." "That sounds exhausting." "Welcome to my life." His voice carried dry humor, the first real joke I'd heard from him. For the first time since the rooftop proposal, I laughed. Actually laughed, the sound surprising us both. "Is this your idea of bonding? Shared misery? You're the first person to laugh at my jokes in 15 years. That wasn't a joke." "No." His expression softened fractionally, the weapon-sharp edges blunting slightly. "But it got you to laugh, which is more than I expected when I forced you into this marriage." Something shifted in that moment. The professional distance we'd carefully maintained cracked. I saw his psychic profile change, curiosity deepening into something warmer. Not love, not yet, but the foundation for it. Interest. Genuine care for my comfort beyond my strategic value. Then my ability failed for the first time. "The new supplier, Tony Caruso," Dante said 3 days later, gesturing to a man across Il Covo's main dining room. "Major contract, he'll handle all our imported goods from Sicily. But I need verification before I sign." "Read him." I focused on Tony Caruso's psychic profile. Clean. Straightforward. No deceptive shimmer of lies. His intentions were simple: complete the contract, deliver quality goods, build long-term business relationship. He's solid. You can trust him. I don't see any hidden agendas or betrayal markers. Dante studied Tony for a moment longer, then nodded. Good enough. He signed the contract that afternoon. $2 million, 6-month commitment, Tony Caruso given access to shipping schedules and warehouse locations. 3 days later, Kenneth burst into breakfast, his stone statue composure shattered. "Boss, Caruso sold our shipping routes to the Irish mob in Southie. Complete manifests, schedules, warehouse locations, everything. He's disappeared with the advance payment." 2 million gone. My stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. That's impossible. I read him. He was clean, no betrayal markers, no. Wrong. Dante's voice was flat, but his psychic profile showed no anger. Just calculation. You were wrong, Tammy. The failure burned like acid. My ability was the only reason I was valuable, the only thing that made me irreplaceable instead of disposable. And I'd just proven it wasn't infallible. How did I miss it? I asked Kenneth, desperate to understand the failure. Caruso's a diagnosed psychopath. Clinically. He doesn't feel guilt or anxiety about betrayal, just calculates outcomes like a computer. No emotional markers for you to read. Kenneth's expression held sympathy instead of judgment. Your ability reads emotions and intentions. Can't read what biologically isn't there. I looked at Dante, waiting for anger or dismissal or the cold calculation that I'd become a liability. I cost you $2 million and exposed your operations. I understand if. If what? If I regret marrying you? He pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me with surprising gentleness. Tammy, you've identified 12 legitimate threats in 3 weeks. You've prevented 3 betrayals, saved me millions in potential losses, and restructured my organization to be more secure than it's been in a decade. One psychopath slipped through because your ability has biological limitations. That's not failure, that's learning. You're not angry? I'm adjusting strategy. From now on, anyone you read as completely clean gets extra vetting, financial background checks, psychological evaluation, pattern analysis. We'll develop countermeasures for the holes in your ability. His hand cupped my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone. You're still learning. So am I. We'll adapt together. The grace in his response hurt more than anger would have. He trusted me even when I failed. Believed in me beyond my utility. That's when I realized with terrible certainty this had stopped being strategic. This was becoming real. But before I could examine that realization, Dante's expression darkened. There's something else you need to know. Something about Marco Rossini. The family Angelo was working for? Yes. But it's personal, not just business. He led me to his study, poured scotch for both of us. 18 years ago, my father executed Marco's older brother, Giovanni Rossini, over a shipping dispute. Territory conflict, both sides escalating, my father moved first. He shot Giovanni in front of his family, wife, children, teenage Marco watching from the doorway. Left him bleeding out on the street. Ice slid down my spine. Marco was there? He watched. He was 14. Old enough to swear vengeance, young enough to be shaped entirely by it. Dante's voice was flat, factual. He spent 18 years building power, expanding territory, waiting for the right moment. Killing me would be revenge, but it's not enough. He wants to destroy everything I've built. Take the people I care about. Make me feel the loss he felt watching his brother die. And now I'm one of those people. Now you're the most important one. His dark eyes held mine. Angelo was his plant, 6 months of loyalty to get close enough. With Angelo dead, Marco will try different tactics. He's been probing my defenses for months. The question isn't if he'll attack. It's when, and how, and whether you'll see it coming. The weight of that knowledge settled over me like snow, cold and inescapable. Subscribe right now because Marco Rossini's next move will test everything Dante and Tammy have built, and what happens in the next 72 hours will change their lives forever. The assassination attempt came during a charity gala Dante hosted at Il Covo 2 weeks later. Black tie, champagne, Boston's elite mixing with carefully disguised criminals. I wore a dress worth more than my former yearly salary, Dante's ring glinting on my hand, and a smile that felt like armor I'd learned to wear. Breathe, Dante murmured as we worked the room, his hand warm on the small of my back. You look terrified. I am terrified. Half these people want you dead. Only half? His voice carried dry humor. I'm losing my touch. He squeezed my waist gently. You're doing well. Just keep reading the room. Tell me if anyone's intentions shift toward violence. I'd been scanning psychic profiles for an hour, cataloging the usual suspects: envy from rivals, calculation from business associates, hidden grudges glowing like embers. Nothing immediately dangerous, until he walked in. Marco Rossini. The man Angelo had died for. His psychic profile was a nuclear explosion of intent: kill Dante Valenti, take his wife as leverage, absorb his operations. Tonight. Here. Multiple shooters positioned throughout the venue, waiting for his signal. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Dante, I whispered urgently, moving closer to him, using the pretense of intimacy to hide my fear. Marco Rossini just walked in. He's planning to kill you right now. Multiple shooters, I can see at least 4 different sources of violent intent focused on you. It's happening now. Dante's expression didn't change, but his psychic profile ignited with cold fury, steel blue calculation overlaid with red anger. Kenneth. The head guard appeared instantly, materializing from the crowd. Dante spoke quietly, rapidly, in Italian. Kenneth nodded once and melted back into the crowd, his hand speaking into his collar mic. How many shooters? Dante asked me, his voice conversational, his smile never slipping for the watching crowd. I scanned desperately, sorting through dozens of psychic profiles. For confirmed, 2 waitstaff, the bartender near the west corner, 1 in the kitchen. They're all waiting for Rossini's signal. Orange anticipation, red violent intent. They're professionals, not nervous. Clever bastard. Using my own venue against me, my own employees as cover. Dante's hand moved to the small of my back in what looked like a possessive gesture but was actually protective positioning. When I move, you move with me. Stay close. If shooting starts, drop to the floor immediately. Kenneth's team is positioning now. Understand? Dante. Do you trust me, Tammy? His dark eyes held mine with an intensity that stole my breath. Did I? This man who'd forced me into marriage, used my ability as a weapon, pulled me into a world of violence I'd spent years avoiding? I looked at his psychic profile and saw it clearly: he would die protecting me. Not because I was useful, but because in 3 weeks of forced proximity and late-night conversations and shared vulnerabilities, I'd become something more. Something essential. Something he'd kill and die for. Yes, I said. I trust you. Good girl. He leaned down, pressing his lips to my ear like an intimate gesture. Anyone watching would see a husband whispering endearments. On my signal, we walked calmly toward the kitchen exit. Not fast. Controlled. Like we're just checking on the catering. Kenneth's team is converging on the shooters now. Marco Rossini was moving through the crowd, getting closer. His intention crystallized with brutal clarity: shoot Dante from close range, quick and clean, blame it on rival families in the chaos, grab me in the confusion. 20 feet away. His hand moving toward his jacket. 15 feet. Now, Dante said. We turned smoothly, walking toward the kitchen like we owned the place, which Dante did. Around us, Kenneth's team moved with military precision, converging on the 4 shooters I'd identified. The first shot came from behind us. Not at Dante, at me. Dante moved faster than physics should allow, spinning and pulling me down as the bullet passed where my head had been a heartbeat earlier. Glass shattered, the champagne flute I'd been holding exploded. Guests screamed. The elegant gala dissolved into chaos. Stay down! Dante positioned himself between me and the shooters, his weapon drawn from somewhere I hadn't seen him concealing it. He fired twice, controlled bursts, professional and precise, dropping the waiter-shooter before he could aim again. Kenneth's team engaged the others. The sound of suppressed gunfire mixed with screams and breaking glass. The bartender went down. The kitchen shooter was dragged out by guards, his weapon clattering to marble floors. Through it all, Marco Rossini was running for the exit. "Kenneth, lock it down," Dante ordered, his voice cutting through chaos with absolute authority. "No one leaves. Especially Rossini." But Marco had already reached a service exit I didn't know existed. Of course he'd planned multiple escape routes. He looked back once, his psychic profile radiating fury and frustration, and fled into the night. The gala ended early. Police came, found nothing. Dante's people had cleaned the scene with professional thoroughness before sirens arrived. Dead shooters became security threats neutralized by private security acting in self-defense. Panicked guests were sent home with sincere apologies and generous compensations that bought silence. Back in the penthouse, I sat on the sofa shaking while Dante paced, his phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian punctuated by words I recognized: vendetta, famiglia, mort. When he finally hung up, his expression was darker than I'd ever seen. The emptiness I'd first noticed in his psychic profile was back, filling with black rage. Marco escaped. He's gone to ground, probably left Massachusetts entirely. He poured scotch with hands that trembled slightly, the only sign of emotion. "He tried to kill you, Tammy. Not me, you. The first shot was aimed at your head. Because I'm your vulnerability. Because he's smart enough to know removing you removes my eyes. You're the only advantage I have, the only way I can see betrayal before it happens." Dante moved to sit beside me, his hand covering mine. "You saved my life again tonight. If you hadn't seen Marco's intention, if we hadn't moved when we did, I'd be dead. Kenneth would be dead. Dozens would be dead. But we did move. We survived. This time." His grip tightened to the edge of painful. "Marco won't stop. He'll try again, different method, different angle. And he'll target you specifically to get to me." Fear finally caught up with adrenaline. The shaking intensified, my whole body trembling with delayed shock. I can't do this. This world, this constant threat, I thought I could handle it, but I can't. I'm not built for people trying to kill me. Neither was I. Dante pulled me against him, and for the first time, the touch felt less strategic, more desperate. More human. I was 12 when my mother died in that car bomb. 14 when I killed my first man. He was trying to kill my uncle, thought a teenager wouldn't fight back. I've spent 20 years in this world, Tammy, and I'm still not used to the violence. But you survive it. You adapt. We survive it together. I looked up at him, and his psychic profile showed me the truth he couldn't voice yet. He was falling for me. Somewhere between rooftop proposals and forced proximity and watching me navigate his world with terrified competence, the emptiness was filling. With attachment. With need. With something dangerous that looked like love. "I see it," I whispered. "In you. You care about me. Really care, not just strategically. I know you do." He didn't deny it, didn't pretend. Is that going to be a problem? I don't know. My heart was hammering, fear and attraction and confusion mixing into something overwhelming. Because I think I'm starting to care about you too. And that's terrifying. Why? Because love in your world gets people killed. Love in any world gets people killed, Tammy. He cupped my face, his thumb tracing my cheekbone with surprising gentleness. But existing without it just means dying more slowly. Going through the motions of survival without actually living. He kissed me then, not the practice gesture from public appearances we'd performed for his world, but something real and desperate and afraid. I kissed him back, letting 3 weeks of tension and fear and unwilling attraction finally surface. When we broke apart, his forehead pressed to mine, both of us breathing hard. "Stay with me tonight," he said quietly. "Not in separate rooms pretending this is professional. Stay with me. His voice cracked. "I need to know you're safe. That you're here. That Marco didn't take you from me. I should have maintained boundaries. Should have kept the professional distance. Should have protected myself from attachment to a man whose world was violence and death. Instead, I took his hand. Okay. I'll stay." We lay in his bed, our bed now, in the darkness. No sex, not yet, just the desperate need for proximity after surviving death. His arms wrapped around me, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat steady and strong. "Marco Rossini needs to die," Dante said quietly into the darkness. "Not just for threatening me. For threatening you. For targeting you specifically. And I need your help to find him." "What do you need me to do?" "Read his men. Find the ones who are conflicted, who might be persuaded to give up his location. Your ability is the only way we'll find him before he strikes again." I thought about Marco's psychic profile, that nuclear explosion of vengeance and pain and 18 years of calculate. Rage. "I'll help you find him," I said. "But Dante? When we do, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "Let me read him first. Before you decide what to do. Let me see if there's another way besides killing him." His arms tightened around me. "Mercy is dangerous in my world." "Maybe. But it's what separates you from men like Marco. It's what makes you worth saving." I lifted my head to look at him in the darkness. "Promise me." "I promise." "But Tammy, if he's an immediate threat, if your life is in danger, then do what you have to do. I'm not asking you to let him kill us. Just, let me try first." He kissed my forehead. "You're going to change my entire world, aren't you?" "Maybe. If you'll let me." "I'm already letting you." His voice was soft, vulnerable in a way I'd never heard. "You've already changed everything." We fell asleep like that, two people who'd been forced together by violence, finding something real in the spaces between fear and trust. Finding Marco took 6 days of careful investigation. I read 47 of his soldiers, looking for cracks in loyalty. Found 3 who were conflicted, men who'd followed Marco out of obligation but questioned the vendetta's cost. Men whose psychic profiles showed gray uncertainty instead of red commitment. Dante's team worked those cracks like experts, offering protection and money to anyone who'd give up Marco's location. The third man broke. Marco was hiding in a warehouse in South Boston, protected by what remained of his operation, 12 soldiers who hadn't fled when their assassination attempt failed. "I'm coming with you," I told Dante when he tried to leave me behind. He targeted me specifically. I have a right to face him. It's too dangerous. Your entire world is too dangerous. If I'm going to survive in it, I need to stop hiding behind you. I met his eyes with steel I didn't know I possessed. Besides, you might need my ability. I can identify which of his soldiers can be turned, which are loyal unto death, which will fight and which will surrender. He studied me for a long moment, his psychic profile showing warring emotions, fear for my safety battling respect for my agency. "You've changed. 6 weeks ago, you could barely watch Angelo die. Now you're volunteering for a raid. 6 weeks ago, I didn't have anyone worth protecting." The admission surprised us both. "I'm not doing this for revenge, Dante. I'm doing it so we can stop looking over our shoulders. So we can figure out what this marriage actually is without constant death threats." "And what do you think it is?" "I don't know yet. But I'd like the chance to find out. Without Marco Rossini trying to kill us." Dante pulled me close, kissing me with an intensity that spoke of things he couldn't yet articulate. "Stay with Kenneth. Don't engage directly. Just read them and report through the earpiece. Promise me. I promise. The warehouse assault was brutal and efficient. Dante's team breached from 3 points simultaneously, military precision born of years working together. Gunfire echoed off concrete and steel beams. I stayed behind Kenneth, scanning every face I saw, reporting psychic profiles through the communication system. 3 o'clock, balding man with the neck tattoo, he's terrified, ready to surrender. Yellow fear everywhere. Guy in the gray jacket by the south door, loyal to Marco, will fight to the death. Red commitment, no hesitation. Woman behind the crates, she's conflicted, wants out, orange uncertainty. She'll turn if given the option. Dante's team adjusted tactics based on my readings. Soldiers who'd surrender were offered it loudly, given the chance to live. Those who wouldn't were eliminated with professional efficiency. The conflicted woman was pulled aside by Kenneth, given a choice, work for Dante or die with Marco's organization. She chose life. Within 15 minutes, only Marco remained, cornered in a makeshift office on the warehouse's second floor. Dante approached the door, his weapon drawn but lowered. I followed despite Kenneth's protective hand trying to hold me back, needing to see this end. Marco sat behind a scarred desk, his weapon on the surface in front of him. Not aimed, not threatening, just there. His psychic profile was ash, all his plans, all his calculations, burned to nothing by failure. And underneath the ash, something I hadn't expected, grief. Raw, ancient grief that had never healed. "You're good," Marco said to Dante, his voice carrying bitter admiration. "Better than your father was. I thought I had you figured out, take out your wife, watch you spiral into the same grief I felt, move in during your weakness." He laughed without humor. I didn't expect her to be more than decoration. Didn't expect her to see my attack coming. "Underestimating people is how you lose wars," Dante replied, his voice flat. "You targeted my wife. There's only one response to that in our world." "I know." Marco's hand moved toward his weapon, not to aim it, just to touch it. Like saying goodbye to an old friend. "Make it quick." "That's not for me to decide." Dante turned to me, and I felt every eye in the room shift to me. "He tried to kill you, Tammy. His soldiers shot at you. In my world, the offended party chooses the response." Marco's eyes widened, looking at me for the first time with actual recognition instead of dismissal. "You're giving her the choice? She's my partner. That means she decides what happens to those who threaten her." Everyone was staring, Kenneth, the guards, Marco whose psychic profile had shifted from ash to surprise. And Dante, whose emptiness showed absolute trust in whatever I chose. I stepped forward, moving past Dante's protective position. "You tried to kill me because I make Dante stronger. Because I see things that threaten your vendetta. Yes. If I let you live, you'll try again. Different method, longer timeline, but you'll try. You've spent 18 years planning vengeance, you won't stop just because you failed once." "Probably not," Marco admitted. "Then I should kill you. That's what everyone expects. That's how this world works." I looked at Dante, at his psychic profile filling with something that looked like hope mixed with curiosity. At the life we were building in the spaces between violence. But I'm not built for this world's solutions. I met Marco's eyes, and his psychic profile showed me everything, the 14-year-old boy watching his brother die, 18 years of calculated rage replacing love, and underneath it all, exhaustion. He was tired of carrying vengeance. Tired of being shaped by it. I'm built to see truth. And the truth is, killing you won't make us safer. Your organization's destroyed. Your soldiers are dead or working for Dante. You're not a threat anymore, you're a cautionary tale." "What are you saying?" Marco asked, his voice wary. "I'm saying there's a third option. One that doesn't end in death." I turned to Dante. Can we exile him? Send him somewhere he's not a threat, monitored, controlled, but alive? Dante's expression was unreadable, his psychic profile a storm of conflicting emotions. That's weakness. In my world, weakness gets exploited. Or it's strength. Showing you're powerful enough to show mercy when everyone expects violence. I moved closer to him. You wanted me in this world because I see truth. Here's the truth, killing Marco makes you exactly what everyone thinks you are, another violent man perpetuating cycles of revenge. Letting him live, stripped of power, watched constantly, that shows them you're something different. Something better. You realize he could escape exile. Return as a threat. That he's killed people, tried to kill us, deserves death by every code I live by. Yes. And you still want mercy. I want to sleep at night without adding another death to my conscience. I touched his face. If that makes me weak, then I'm weak. But Dante, you married me because I was different from your world. Don't punish me now for being exactly what you needed. His psychic profile shifted, surprise melting into respect, melting into something deeper. Love. Actual love, not the strategic attachment we'd been pretending didn't exist. Fine, he said, and Marco's head jerked up in shock. Marco Rossini, you're exiled. Kenneth will arrange transport to whatever corner of the earth you choose, preferably somewhere without extradition treaties or easy return. You take nothing. You contact no one from your former life. You disappear completely. If you violate these terms, if you ever return to Boston or threaten my family again, there is no second mercy, just death. Understood? Marco stared between us like we'd started speaking a language he didn't comprehend. You're letting me live? My wife is letting you live, Dante corrected. I'd put a bullet in your brain and sleep fine tonight. But she sees something in you worth sparing. And I trust her judgment more than I trust my instincts. Marco's voice cracked. I watched my brother die. I spent 18 years planning to make you feel that pain. And you're showing me mercy? I'm showing you what cycles of revenge cost, I said quietly. You lost 18 years to vengeance. Don't lose the rest of your life to it. Take the exile. Start over. Find something to live for besides hatred. Kenneth moved forward with zip ties, securing Marco's wrists. Where do you want to go? Marco thought for a long moment. Argentina. I had a cousin there. Before all this. Argentina it is, Kenneth said, already making calls. As they led Marco away, Dante pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. You just rewrote every rule I live by, he murmured against my hair. Good. Your rules were making you empty. And now? I looked up at him, at the psychic profile that was no longer void but filling with warmth and trust and dangerous, terrifying love. Now you have a chance to fill that emptiness with something better. With mercy. With hope. With me. He kissed me then, deep and claiming and vulnerable. Ti amo, Tammy. I love you. Not because you're useful. Because you're you. I love you too, I whispered, and felt the truth of it settle over us like benediction. Drop a comment, would you have chosen mercy or death for Marco? Because this choice defines everything Dante and Tammy become. Epilogue 6 months later. The Foundation's opening was my idea, but Dante made it real. You see people's pain, he'd said one morning over breakfast. Channel that into something constructive instead of just reading threats. So we created Sight, a non-profit providing counseling and support for families impacted by organized crime. Dante funded it with money from operations he was gradually making legitimate. I ran it, using my ability to identify families who needed help most, people drowning in cycles they didn't choose. The grand opening party was at Il Covo, the restaurant where everything started. I stood in the private room where I'd saved Dante's life 6 months ago, watching him mingle with legitimate businessmen, reformed criminals, and families we'd helped. The room had been completely remodeled, new marble floors replacing the ones stained with Angelo's blood, fresh paint covering old sins. "Mrs. Valenti?" A young woman approached nervously, her psychic profile showing gratitude mixed with lingering trauma. "I wanted to thank you. My brother was in Marco Rossini's organization. When it collapsed, your husband could have killed him. Instead, he offered him legitimate work. My brother's been clean for 6 months now. He has a real job, a real future." I smiled, genuine warmth replacing the practiced expression I'd worn for weeks. "That's wonderful. Tell him to keep working hard. Second chances don't come often, make it count." She left, and Dante appeared at my elbow, offering champagne and crystal that wouldn't shatter as a weapon. "Another success story? Another person you didn't have to save, but did anyway." "I'm reforming." He kissed my temple, the gesture casual, comfortable, ours. "It's exhausting and profitable. Legitimate business has better margins than I expected." "Worth it though?" "Ask me in another 6 months when the IRS finishes their audit." He squeezed my hand. "Yes. It's worth it. You're worth it." We'd been truly married, sharing rooms, sharing lives, sharing everything, for 4 months now. The professional distance had dissolved gradually, replaced by something neither of us had planned for, genuine partnership. Love that grew from respect and survival and choosing each other repeatedly, even when it was hard. I still saw his psychic profile every time I looked at him. But the emptiness was gone, filled with things that terrified and thrilled him in equal measure: trust, hope, attachment, love. He was still dangerous, still powerful, still the head of an organization transitioning slowly toward legitimacy. But he was also mine, and I was his, and that was enough. "I have something for you," Dante said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "More jewelry? I'm going to look like a chandelier." "Open it." Inside was a key. Simple brass, worn smooth, nothing expensive or elaborate. "What's this?" "The key to my private safe. The one in my study that holds every secret, every piece of leverage, every backup plan, every document that could destroy me." His dark eyes held mine with absolute sincerity. "You're the only person I trust with it. The only person who could destroy me, and the only person who never would." I took the key, feeling its weight. This was more than metal, this was complete trust. "This is everything," he finished. "You've earned every ounce of trust one have, Tammy. You've seen the worst of me, the violence, the emptiness, the capacity for cruelty, and you're still here. You chose mercy when I would have chosen death. You showed me how to be better than what my world made me. You're still dangerous. Always." A small smile. "But now I'm dangerous for the right reasons. Protecting instead of just surviving." I reached up, pulling him down for a kiss. Around us, the party continued, success stories and second chances and people building lives from wreckage. "Just like us." "Take me home, husband," I said when we broke apart. "To our rooftop. I want to see where this started." "Where what started?" "The marriage?" "No. Us. The real us." We stood on the rooftop garden where everything began, the same lights strung through trees, the same view of Boston's deceptive stars. But everything else had changed. The cage had unlocked. The forced marriage had become real. And the emptiness had filled with something neither of us had dared hope for. "Do you regret it?" I asked, leaning against the railing. "Forcing me into this? The rooftop proposal, the platinum ring, all of it?" Dante moved behind me, his arms wrapping around my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder. "I regret that I couldn't find a gentler way. That I had to use fear and necessity instead of courtship. But regret you? Regret us? Never. I looked at his psychic profile, no emptiness, just complete, terrifying love. The kind that made him vulnerable. The kind that made him human. I see it, I whispered. Every time I look at you. You're not empty anymore. You filled the void. He turned me to face him. With truth when everyone else gave me lies. With mercy when I only knew violence. With love I didn't deserve but you gave anyway. We both deserved better than how this started. But we made it into something beautiful. His hand found mine, the platinum ring catching light, no longer a shackle, now a promise kept. That's the actual miracle, Tammy. Not that I forced you into marriage. That you chose to stay. That you chose me, freely, when you could have walked away. I'll always choose you. I kissed him softly. Even when it's hard. Even when your world is violent and dangerous. I choose you. And I choose you. Every day. Every moment. He pulled me close, and we stood together on the rooftop where a cage had been built, watching it transform into something beautiful. The story hadn't started with love. It had started with survival, necessity, a psychic ability, and a desperate man's need for truth. But it had become love anyway, the kind that filled emptiness, that chose mercy over violence, that proved two lonely people could find each other even in the darkest places. Ready to go home? Dante asked. I'm already home, I said. Wherever you are, that's home. We left the rooftop hand in hand, the city lights spreading below us like promises we'd spent 6 months learning to keep. The cage door was open now, had been for months. We stayed not because we had to, but because we'd built something worth protecting. Together. Always together. The emptiness had filled with love. The forced marriage had become real. And Tammy Moore, waitress, psychic, wife, had found exactly where she belonged. In the truth. In the danger. In Dante Valenti's arms. If this story of forced proximity turning into real love gave you all the feels, share it with someone who loves Mafia romance with a twist. Want more stories where danger meets destiny and psychic powers change everything? Subscribe and turn on notifications, we drop new epic romances that'll keep you up all night.